Okay, start recording. All right. Oh geez.
I'm not doing it.
All right.
Is it not going on today?
Okay, no, we're good there. All right, they can hear us. Okay. Oh, I better. Okay.
Cool. Am I good?
No, I need to start you off.
Okay.
Can you see me?
So let me see. Oh no.
Yeah. Okay.
You gotta.
You could bring me that
So
chair.
play camera guy for a minute,
Alright, I will.
and then we'll move it. Okay. Yeah. All right. You can sit down. Well, yeah. All right. Welcome everyone to Adobe Labs. We're super excited to have Whitney here today to talk to us about Photoshop 101. Awesome.
No, PowerPoint.
Or PowerPoint.
No, Photoshop.
Photoshop. Okay. One is better than the other, so I hope it's Photoshop. That's what I came for.
Yeah.
We're like we've said every other week. We're a nonprofit, so we're super excited to have you guys here. We run purely on donations. Currently, we really need them, so we would appreciate any donations that you guys have for us. You can find the donate link on our website. That's adobe1labs.org, and then just go click the donate button. Whitney, do you want to tell a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. I'd like to say I am qualified because I've been using Photoshop since 2010, and so that's at least 12 years of experience. And I do all the arts and all the things, so if you ever need any help, just go ahead and reach out. I'm usually get back to people like right away. So.
And what's your officer position?
Oh, I'm the vinyl officer, so anything that needs vinyl on it, vinyl cutting, all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. We're really excited. So everyone give her a round of applause. Okay.
Okay. So I'm really short, so I'm sorry if you can't see me, but the board's more important, so yeah. Am I good?
You good?
Okay. So let's talk about some alternatives to Photoshop before we begin. We have Affinity Photo, which can be on Mac or Windows, but the interface sucks, but you only have to pay $55 one time. Then we have GIMP, which everyone always asks about. I personally despise it because it's overly complicated to figure out. Nothing's intuitive, but it is free. And you can have it on any OS, including Linux. And then...
It's open source.
Yep. Then we have Krita, which is very common in the art community. It's free. It can run on anything. But it is missing a lot of features that Photoshop has. More people draw with it than they do photo manipulation. So let's talk about what Photoshop is.
Do any of those actually come close to Photoshop?
To me, no, but I've been using Photoshop for 12 years, so why would any of them come close to me?
Okay.
But if you are going to use one of them, I would say Krita. Use Krita.
Okay.
Does it, if you use Krita, does it mess with the resolution of your photos?
It just depends on how you open them.
Okay.
Yep. So, what does Google say Photoshop is? It's a photo editing, image creation, and graphic design software. The software provides many image editing features for raster, which is a pixel-based image, as well as vector graphics. It uses a layer-based editing system and enables image creation and altering with multiple overlays and support transparency. What does all that mean? It means it's a Swiss Army knife for Adobe. That's what that means. Okay, so one thing you do need to realize is Photoshop is mostly a raster-based program, so it's going to use mostly rasterizing the images. If you're going to use vector, you should be using Illustrator if that's like your main purpose is to use vector. So you can see raster has these beautiful gradients. It looks like a picture. Vector over here, you can see it's kind of spaced out. There's specific things. That's because it is essentially equation instead of pixels. Okay, so let's get into it. So you can see anything on here that is highlighted in green is my mouse, just so you know. So I wanted to go first over how you create a new document and why what you choose here is actually one of the most important things you do. Before you're ever doing anything, you should really figure out what you're doing. So are you editing a photo? Are you making a brochure? What is it? And that will determine like sizing. And the reason why sizing matters is because of this resolution. If it's only 7:5, you could maybe get away with enlarging it to a 14:10, but it's going to be a lot less, there's going to have a lot less resolution to that. Also, depending on if you decide to print or stay online will depend on whether you should do CMYK or RGB. If you know for sure you're not going to be printing it, then RGB is fine. If you know for sure you're going to want to print it at any point, use CMYK. You can change it while you're in the program, but if you change it while you're in the program, sometimes the color will shift because it has different gamma parts to it, so it will change like your blues and your greens, some of your reds, because of the spectrum that it is on. So just kind of keep that in mind when you go to make anything. And they have nice stuff. What?
So if you're planning on like let's say I wanted to make a photo album book for my wife, right?
Uh-huh.
If I knew it was going to be printed in that format, I'd probably use CMYK.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I would always recommend going a little larger than what you think you're going to do, because say you think you're only going to need a 4:6 photo, but then that is your wife's favorite photo and she wants it bigger. Well, if you do it bigger to start with, it's going to keep that resolution, because it's a lot better to keep that resolution than size down than it is to size up.
Okay. So you mean like when we do our editing, edit a big picture first,
Yep.
and crop at the very last step.
Crop or shrink down.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so like this picture, this is like, you know how they say enhance on movies? Well, this is essentially what enhancing is. Enhance. Well, there's no extra pixels. That's why none of it makes sense. There's no extra pixels. That's why it's important to keep a bigger and go smaller instead of smaller and go bigger. So let's see. All of this is in the in Discord if any of you guys want to follow along. If not, it's fine. So one of the first things I wanted to show you guys was the spot healing tool brush. You can click and hold and go over to it, and then
What are you doing?
what am I doing? I'm fixing this photo.
What's
So
wrong with this photo? It looks fine to me.
so there's creases in this photo.
So like the photo was originally creased and bent.
So this photo, I just found it online, but essentially, like, if you were to take an old-timey photo, a lot of the time there's something wrong with it. There's like these spots here, there's a crease, and you can fix this in Photoshop. So you take this brush and what I like to do.
Is this is a scan? Is this like a JPEG or what is it?
This is a JPEG because I found it online.
Can we also play with RAWs later?
Yes, I actually have that planned for the next thing. So, and they're called RAWs. You're good. So what you usually like to do is I like to make sure that it's about the same size as what I'm fixing. So you can see that this is like really small, but then when I click and hold and drag down, it fixes it very nicely.
Oh, just like magically makes it go away?
Yeah. That's called the spot healing brush.
This is why I have a job. I got it now.
Actually, you don't have to pay. You probably get it for free, huh?
But if you have it bigger, so you can see the white outline of the brush. If you do it bigger, it doesn't always do the right things, like right here. That's why you want to do it as small as you can get it, but that you only have to do one stroke. So you can just
What does multiple strokes end up doing?
It's creating, or it's pulling from different things. So
Oh, it's just, okay. Yeah.
it is like you can do multiple strokes just fine. It just usually looks better when you can create one stroke. But you can also do things like get rid of zits or like little speckles. You can see there's little speckles on here. I go to my spot healing tool brush.
It literally looks like a Band-Aid.
Yep, that looks like a Band-Aid, and you can get rid of these little things and make the picture look so much better and have and fix it essentially. Another thing, so I'm going to just take my lasso tool here, and I'm just going to lasso around this little piece. This is another cool feature. You just press delete and it will bring up a content aware fill. So you can figure out, you can do background color or whatever, but content aware has actually came like pretty far since it started, and you can just press OK.
Oh!
And sometimes it works really well for like patterns and stuff because it analyzes the image and takes it away.
How did it know that that's what you wanted gone?
Because it's analyzing it.
It'd be so cool to
Like I said, it's gone a lot farther. You used to be able to do like maybe some grass and it look okay. Now it is quite great. See, I just and delete content aware. See, you can tell that it didn't necessarily do it perfectly. That's why you should like be careful how you're selecting, but it still looks decent. Most people wouldn't even notice
So
that
why
part.
are you using the lasso tool, not the object selection tool? Just out of
Just out of curiosity, because this was a scrape. So if I did like object selection tool, which I love this tool, it's amazing. But if I select this, it's not necessarily going to get the whole thing.
Right.
I would need to go to select, grow, oh, wrong thing, sorry. Select, modify, and then expand. And then I'd need to expand it by probably at least 10 pixels. That's a lot for this image because it's really small. And then you can do it that way. But with the lasso tool is just faster in this scenario.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's the magic of that. There's also a couple other really cool ones, like the patch tool is essentially a lasso tool. You grab what you want, but now I'm going to click and drag it, and I can essentially line this up where it is, and it makes a patch for it.
Wow.
And all of these are really simple, really little things, but it can be intimidating when you don't know what you're doing or how you want to fix something.
So could you patch the wood back from the other wood?
Yep, so like, say this little piece right here. So I'm just gonna, usually you want to align it perfectly, because if you don't align it perfectly, it does something like that. But if I align it pretty well, it looks just like there, and it is fixed and looks great, right?
I just can't trust that.
I can't trust the
Fake. Fake news.
Yeah.
Fake news.
Can
No,
you
this,
colorize?
what?
Can you colorize?
You can. You would do that as, I would do it as an overlay. So you'd create a new layer over here. Instead of normal, I would go down to...
So what is creating a new layer?
Creating a new layer
What are
means
layers?
that, so I'm not doing this on top of the image, so if I don't like it, I can get rid of it.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
and you don't really want to mess with your background that often. So I take overlay, I make it into an overlay image, and I can go over here to this brush tool and size down the brush tool. You can also size it up here with like this little thing, but I use the quick tools, so I apologize for that. And then just take whatever color you want, like say we want to add red. So it keeps what's in the background and I'm putting stuff on top of it. You can also see that like the edge is pretty hard here, but if I wanted to feather the edge so it's not quite as hard, you can see that it kind of creates a better gradient like that.
So is that how they do, like when you see colorized pictures from the old days, that's how they're doing it? Is somebody's
Sometimes, other times it's just an AI assigning value to different grays to make it into that color. I've never done it myself on Photoshop because I don't really use old images like ever. It's all color already.
Let's try it.
And
see how it works.
I don't know how I would do that because like I could do an adjustment of like
Auto color, is that? No.
no auto. So this will you gotta make sure you're selected to the right layer. But auto color will make it so it's perfectly black and white. Auto color or auto contrast will make it what it thinks the contrast should be, and auto tone will just kind of give it a simplified tone. But then you can also go to your adjustments and like your color balance. Say you wanted more of a sepia oldie fill, you can change this to a little bit more yellow. Give it a little bit more red or green and teal.
Hey, kid.
There you go.
Turn off the light.
Oh, sorry.
No, here, keep going.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
That's
So-
way better.
Yeah, so you can do auto tones like that. You can also do some adjustments with colors via your levels. Levels is really interesting. It won't show it here because there's really no color there, but you can make your brights brighter, you can make your darks darker, you can make them very creepy, all that kind of stuff. So I was gonna move on to looking at raw files.
Before you do that, can I ask a real basic question?
Sure.
So what if I screwed up my whole menu bars and I'm like, where is stuff? And I want to get it back to default.
Okay, actually that's a great question. So you come over here to this little icon here,
Top right.
Yeah.
top right, and so you'll see a bunch of different options depending on what you want to do. And you just essentially reset.
Perfect.
So this is the basic one. Sometimes this will be over here, so it's different. It conjugates your tools. I prefer it to be slim.
Okay, thank you. My
So-
toolbar's back to where I want to be.
Yep. And also, cancel. There we go. You can move stuff in your toolbar now as well, which can sometimes get confusing. And you just have to go to this. So it says edit toolbar, and you can restore all your defaults that way.
Okay.
So.
Super useful.
Yep, so we're gonna just go ahead and close out of this one. And we can, so this is, I made this into a JPEG so you can see what it will look like before we edit the raw photo. So this is what it looks like right now. You can barely see any of the grass. You can kind of see the mountains. It's not very interesting right here. But we can come in and we can open it and take the raw file and press open. And it'll bring up this lovely raw camera box. I was on a bigger screen, so let me make it a little smaller. And you can do all kinds of things in this. Automatically you can see it looks like a better photo because that's what it looked like before. This is what it looks like right now. And you can do things like make it even brighter with the exposure. You can make it a little less contrasty, so like maybe more of like an overcast day. Give it more highlights, make it look like the sun's exploding almost. Make your shadows darker and your highlights lighter.
So this is why you shoot your photos in RAW, right?
Yeah, it's so you can create more of a dynamic feeling to your photos. Also, most photographers have a little bit of like almost a signature way of doing things. It's their style of photo. So a lot of the time they have specific presets that they use already, and you can save like presets of like, oh, I usually like it about this way, and then you go in and you tweak it just a little bit. You can add texture. Oh, here, we'll brighten that up a little bit. So you can see that there's more texture in here. You can make it a little bit less texturized by filtering with the clarity, and you can also dehaze it. So like if it looks very foggy or hazy that day like it does in Utah, you can fix it that way. You can also do vibrance. There's like a lot of stuff you can do in this specific screen before you even get into the actual Photoshop of like maybe you wanted to add a cow or a barn in here or something. You can mess with the curves. Curves are a little bit more advanced for people. You can see details. This is also will change your metadata in your actual file as you change this. So, and then there's also like effects, like, you know, those effects that you see. And
I see up at the top that you have like your aperture and shutter speed and stuff.
yep,
Can you play with those at all, or is that just information that's like shown to you? Or
This
can
is-
you like edit it?
you can edit it. See, like,
I mean, you can't change the shutter speed. It's already been taken.
I mean,
right?
it's already been taken, but like I'm wondering if you can.
you can
If the
change
program can-
some of it. So like you can see that I'm moving it. You can just grab it and move it.
Yeah.
So like if you mess up your exposure, like it's too dark or too bright, with a raw file you can actually kind of fix that, versus with a JPEG you can't.
Yes, and as far as photography wise, it is much better to be underexposed than overexposed, because the raw file will get more information from a darker photo than a too bright of photo. So, yeah.
I think we ruined our mountain scene though.
We're gonna have to put a new sky in there.
And the Control Z history is dead.
Yeah.
But this is where you could change the contrast of one part of the picture and not the other, right?
Yeah.
So why do you use it in Photoshop instead of using it in like Lightroom or something? Isn't Lightroom made to do RAW?
Honestly, I use Photoshop so much more than Lightroom because I don't know that much about Lightroom.
All right, that works.
A friend explained it to me once that he like saw Lightroom as more of just like photo touching up, and like Photoshop is touching up, and then I'm gonna also do some stuff. Like I might also change this area of the sky, or like, you know, I might put the moon into this picture or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and Lightroom has like an image browser, library thing.
Yeah.
For like managing your pictures.
Yeah, it's more.
Yeah, and honestly, I just switched over to Mac, and I had my own way of managing my own photos, so there wasn't any point for me to use Lightroom.
Okay.
But
So Lightroom is for touching up and Photoshop is for forgery.
no, you can do. But the thing is,
Creation.
the thing about Photoshop though is that you can do all the stuff you can do in Lightroom in Photoshop.
Plus more.
Yeah, plus
a lot.
more. That's why
Alright.
that's why I don't ever use Lightroom, is because I can do it all in Photoshop as well. So that's a little bit about raw images. Is there any other questions about raw images that you guys might have wanted me to go over?
Discord.
I have a question.
Huh?
How important is your monitor? I mean, I'm assuming it has to be pretty good to get the right color. Is that?
Your monitor is as good as you like.
If you're doing print,
If
it
you,
can be really
yeah, if you're doing print, it can be really important. If you are color matching, it's super important. If you are just editing things, it's as good as you want to be able to see it. So most my monitors are 4K, but I can differentiate between colors a lot better than a lot of other people can. So I can tell the difference. As Kip
So the-
over here can only tell 720.
So the 4K versus the 1080p is gonna, you're gonna see a difference in color?
I would, because I know the color spectrum. A lot of people can't.
So what I've been doing a lot of research on monitors. The resolution isn't super important. I mean, it is if you're looking at a really big one, but for you, it's not going to be super important.
Like color
But
matching is.
but the color accuracy of the monitor makes a big difference
Makes a huge
because there are monitors that are like, and it looks good here, but then you take it to a color accurate one, like, wait a second, that doesn't look good. And you can look at the monitor specs and look at for the sRGB and how much of the scale that it covers, and you can kind of choose monitors that way.
So the metric you're looking for is sRGB.
There's a couple different ones, but that's
So
one of them.
sRGB is a color space,
Mhm.
and like, if you're doing Photoshop editing, that's the color space Photoshop uses.
Yeah.
So if you want like a high percentage, like as close to 100% as possible of that color space, so because otherwise your monitor's gonna like compress the colors together, and you know the stuff that's really bright or really dark is gonna look different on your screen versus another one.
Gotcha.
And there's also the color accuracy, which is measured with a term called delta E, which you have like. It's basically like you can look up if you look on monitor reviews online, they do measurements, and it's like there's a term called delta E, which is how off of like the actual color spectrum
Gotcha.
a monitor is. And so like if you're doing print, it's really important that the colors, because you know if you ever print something and you hold it up to your screen and it looks off, it's because either your printer's not calibrated or your screen's not calibrated, which they're probably both off.
And it's really hard to
Professional stuff.
keep your monitor screen calibrated,
Right,
honestly.
if you're doing like professional stuff, you can get fully calibrated so that they do match.
Yeah.
You know.
The hardest part is most of the manufacturers on monitors don't tell you this stuff. So you have to go to like a third party review place or something. And so, I mean, I was about to bring it up, but somebody on Discord mentioned the same thing. If you want to look for monitors, there's a site called rtings.com. It does really good monitor reviews. And just go search for if you want photo accuracy, go look for their photo accurate one and choose their top 2 or 3 and just use that.
Yep.
Sorry, we
No,
hijacked
you're
your
good.
class.
MacBooks have really good color calibrated displays, like
All
professional
Apple.
workstation laptops have color calibrated displays.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like cheap monitors, especially like TN monitors, they're gonna have terrible colors.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
And, you know, that's just how it is.
Alrighty, let's go and do some more magic, shall we? So this is the object selection tool. It is a very new, it's one of the newer tools in Photoshop, but it is the most amazing thing in the entire world, I feel like. So somebody asked me to go over taking out backgrounds. So essentially, as long as it is a different color than the object you are selecting, it will select it for you. So I just am taking this, clicking and dragging, and it automatically knows that this is its own thing. And that's one of the coolest things I ever have seen myself. I feel like it's still magic even though I use it all the time. So how you would take out the background is make sure that your background layer is unlocked. Go up to select, inverse, so that you're not deleting the object, you're deleting the other stuff, and just simply delete it. And now you have an object here.
So when you delete it, you just hit the delete button?
Yep.
Okay.
But did it make the edge pixels partially transparent?
No, it did not. But you can do that by, if you want it to be partially transparent, before you delete it, you can go up to select, modify, and then feather. Feathering will feather however many pixels you want. I'll do 20 just to be obnoxious. And so now when I delete, it creates a transparency. Usually you wouldn't do that many because obviously it's obnoxious, but
It looks like you're missing half the edges.
yeah. One thing I really like to talk about or say is go back to inverse, so it's your regular image. And this is how people do really easy stickers, is just going to select, modify, and grow, or expand, sorry. And you can do like lots of times people just do 10. I'll do 15 so it's easy to see. So they grow by 15 and make a new layer and essentially just paint in like say a red. Now you have that white outline that most stickers do.
Oh, that's magic. That's the border to the sticker really easily.
Yep, and then you can just put this in any of your cutting softwares. So it's really easy to select stuff. You can also select things via this quick mask tool. Let's go on to this one. And you can paint in. So if you have hair, I know someone mentioned hair,
Ugh.
you can essentially just, you want it to be black to paint over it, but I can take this cord out now. And then after I click the quick mask tool again, this is going to take out the, or leave the cord, but it just has the cord now. So there's a lot of different selection tools that you can use that are fun, I guess. Cool. You can also do this in memes. So this is a blank meme, obviously, and you could select, let's say, when you can see it, it can grab whatever object you want. Let's say you want the board, and you want to put, I don't know, we can move me over here, in here. I can take out
Just a slice.
the slice of me. Or, you know, however you want, whatever thing you want. You can also do this easily by adding in text.
With the object grabbing tool, is it kind of just whatever the tool does is what it does, or can you like I noticed at one point it wasn't selecting his ear. Is there an option that you can go in and be like, hey, you almost got it, also look at this piece, or like, hey, I'm only looking to grab his face, I don't want the
Yep.
shirt, or I only want the shirt, I don't want his hand or his head or whatever.
Yep, so so say you want him, sorry, it already selected the other thing. You can press shift and you can see on here that it has a plus sign on there, right?
Uh-huh.
So, and you're like, I want to grab part of the wall as well, or part of this as well. And it'll grab it onto it. So now, if you see where all the little marching ants are, it grabbed both the
Yeah.
this part and him. And so you can add it in. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily do it very well, and you can do that. You can modify any of them with like the quick selection tool or the magic wand. Like with quick selection, I have the minus means it will take away from the selection. So
Okay, so like say you just wanted his head, you could grab his
Yep,
body and
so
then just minus.
you just kind of nudge it up here.
So is you hold the Alt key to go to the minus? Is that what you do?
You can change it up here. I just have it selected right
Oh, I
here.
see.
You can also press shift for plus, and I believe it is alt or option for negative.
That's cool.
So, yeah, see, you can do just his face or whatever you want. So we have this right here. You can press Control T, which is your transform, and make it bigger. So memes are cool. That's how you can add in words for memes.
My memes are poor.
And then you can just add in another thing. So you can even make a text box. So you can have a bunch. So tips, memes are lame. You should feel targeted. Because your memes are lame. Haha. I like the magic mouse because I can scroll sideways as well as up and down. That's why it's all over the place. Okay, let's see.
So how did you just move it without having to go to the hand tool? You know?
So you can press spacebar and it goes automatically
Okay,
to your spacebar.
Didn't know that.
Also, if you have a magic mouse, it's just like I'm scrolling up and down or side to side. Or
You can probably try 2-finger scroll on your laptop. It might work. Or something like that.
I don't know. With mine, it changes my desktop.
Yeah, it does.
Also, a really good quick key that you guys will want while you're in Photoshop is Z. Z is amazing. You press Z and then you can zoom in and zoom out with a scroll. You can also navigate really easily with it. You'll see me use it all the time. I don't ever go to my bar to get to zoom. I always press Z.
Just Z.
Just Z. Yep. And if you look in the Discord, I have a little list or picture of a bunch of the quick tools or quick keys to use. If you wanted to change them, you can go to keyboard shortcuts and you can see all of the different quick keys you want. So like I have export in file, I think, different for export as, just because I do that all the time. But you can change a lot of different things, copy, paste. Any quick key can be changed. You just gotta click on it and say the new quick key. It'll tell you, like F4, say if I wanna do F1, it's already in use, and then it tells you where it is. So if you want to still have it as the new thing, you can, or you can be like, oh, okay, I don't wanna do that. And you can always get back your default anything, honestly. Alright, so I know lots of people know that you modify photos in Photoshop. Well, one of the ones that people don't talk about quite frequently, but is the most amazing thing in the world, is liquify. And you just click on liquify, and then you have this big old menu box that comes up. So nowadays you can make your smile bigger, which is very creepy.
Oh, wow.
What the heck? So crazy.
Say I wanted my top lip to be bigger or smaller. There's some automatically ones that it recognizes. Eyes, very common. Females of all types will make their eyes ginormous.
That doesn't look right. Let me put it back.
Ginormous.
Turn it up all the way.
They'll do this.
Oh my god.
Oh jeez.
I can become Sid the Sloth.
I can't even look.
Now just move one so you look.
It's just like, ugh. But you can do it for all. It has this facial aware, and you can also, so it detects there's only one face. If there's multiple faces, you can change only one person's face or everybody's face. Say that brother of yours doesn't ever smile in a photo, and you just want a little smile more. You can do that here.
Wait. Can it auto detect the same? Like, will it? Can you name them, and then when you open a new picture, it figures out it's the same person again?
No.
Wouldn't it be cool if you could like set up things so that every time you open a picture, it detect, oh, that's Bash.
Like
We should
Google
make him
Photos?
frown and give him a, a halo every time, or.
Yep. See, you can move the
Google Photos
nose,
does that.
big
That's
nose,
cool, the
small
implications
nose.
are also really unsettling.
yes, it is. You can also do meshes. Meshes is really complicated sometimes, so I wouldn't mess with that unless.
It's not a one-on-one.
Yeah, not a one-on-one course, but you also can tell. This is really common. You choose this little nudgy tool. This is a very common mistake people make when they use it. Is they accidentally nudge something that's supposed to be straight, and so you notice that. But what you can do is you can go to your object selection tool. Say I select myself, as it decides to think for once. And then I go to the filter. This is why this makes me so upset. It's because now I'm only editing me and I'm not making the stuff in the background edit. So I'm not changing the straight lines. So you can do like, people do this to make, I'm doing this really badly on purpose, to make people look skinnier.
Dude, looks great.
Or there's these other tools like pinching. So a lot of people don't like how big their nose is, and this doesn't necessarily do it well every time. So what you can do is just make your face just a little smaller or a little bigger.
Oh.
Okay.
Keep going.
This is I'm sure you guys saw this at one point in the internet where people would always have this. This was this tool. But also you can make things bigger. So people who make bigger boobs or really weird faces or really big foreheads, use that.
I got a question. If you pull up a picture and you pull it into Photoshop, can you zoom in and tell that it's been modified?
Not all the time, but if they didn't do it well, yes. Because there will be like you'll see it and it'll be like going inwards like this with like some of the straight lines. And you're like, obviously you shrunk that inwards, like that doesn't look natural. And that's a lot of times like for Kim Kardashian, there were some things that they were like, you can clearly tell that is a modified image because the stuff in the background wasn't good. Like they didn't make sure that they fixed it in the background, they only fixed the person.
So if you want to think about that forensically, you can think about stuff like sensor noise, which is going to be uniform across the picture.
Yeah.
Any of these edits would be
Pretty easy. I know that my company has been working and they've been publishing research on things to help push that forward so that they could at some point make that possible. So you could like throw a picture in and it'd be like, yeah, this has been modified. No, this hasn't been. I don't know where they're at on that. I just know that they published a few things publicly on their blogs talking about how they're working on that. So that's definitely a thing people are interested in because it can get really scary.
Yeah.
But you can see people, you can change how someone looks, and some people do this for every photo. And sometimes they create some presets that kind of help with it or automatically, because there's plenty of apps that do it as well, but whatever. And now I was going to just go into some of the really cool adjustments that you can do, like hue and saturation. Say I wanted my hair color a little bit more blue. So I changed it to my yellows. And now you can tell, because my hair was a little bit yellower. I mean, obviously, if you can see that it's not a perfect selection, but you can kind of modify it to to be darker or lighter.
Some highlights or something.
I know my wife did this to herself before she decided to dye her hair.
Yeah, I do it all the time when I'm trying to decide a different hair color. Is instead of doing a selection like this, I'll do a selection, create a selection kind of like this, and then I will go in with a quick selection tool and make it bigger, and just kind of do a really kind of crappy selection because I don't really care. And then I'll just go into the adjustments, and you can do hue or saturation or color balance. I usually like the hue and saturation, but I can see like purple look good on me, blue. What about what if I want a darker hair color, less saturation, different things like that. What else? There's plenty of filters as well. So say I didn't like that you could see this part of the background. I can select it. And I'm doing this so it's obvious. But Gaussian blur. You can see it can blur stuff out for you. So this is how a lot of times people blur out photos or people's faces in other photos. Or if they just want like you to not really recognize the background, they do it something like that. Another filter, a blur filter that I really enjoy is this, where is it? Filled blur. And this is where you can create points that you want to blur, but you can also be like, okay, I want more of this section to be blurred, less of this section. Like I want this person to be in full focus instead of having blur around them. Except for this is selected, so it doesn't want to do it. Sorry. So you can do a filled blur. So like this is where you can do like, hey, I want this part, but this part I want super out of focus, a little bit more focused. And you can kind of create your own blurring effect or make it seem like somebody's small or something's really big through this effect. And then you just press OK to keep the changes. I personally don't really enjoy the filter gallery, but there is one. And it will do weird stuff like creating a charcoal effect, as it takes forever. Maybe posterize edges. There you go. This gives you a feel of being vector without it being vector. Watercolor. I don't know why you'd do watercolor, but there's a bunch of different ones. I was saying before that this can be use all kind of like Swiss Army knife. That's because you have like 3D graphics. You can create essentially like GIFs by adding in stuff here and changing little bits and bobs of it. You can go over here and motion. There's painting. So like people like to paint with Photoshop. What else was there? Oh, there's a pen tool. This creates vectors in Photoshop. That's now a shape. And I can add color to the shape. or the, where did it go? Or you can create curves with it. But all that is mostly, if you're going to be creating this kind of stuff, the vectors, I would use Illustrator instead of Photoshop because there's a lot more you can do with it and it's a lot easier to use. You can also create basic shapes with it if you want. If you're like, hey, I want a blurb here about Photoshop or whatever. This is how people use it for graphic design. I think that's all I have prepared. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Can you teach us about layers?
Oh, yeah, sure. Here.
Like how to use them and like what do you do with a layer? And
So a lot of stuff with layers. You can have a normal layer. You can have something that dissolves. All this just kind of changes what is happening with the layer. So like lighten will lighten anything. You just have to really play with them. Overlay it keeps kind of the background and it only has a transparency. You can change the hue with the layer. A lot of the time with layers, I guess the cool thing about layers is that with layers you can move stuff. So like I don't have to keep the mouse center. I could make it off center or out of center.
So layers are good for like, say you have like a sun and you want to move the sun around.
Yep.
Or like say you have a few objects inside of an environment, like your original mountain, and you had like a couple of trees on different layers, you could adjust the trees and stuff slowly.
Yep.
Get what you want with layers. Okay.
Like this.
Oh man, you guys bring this pretty much.
Yep, I made this image for Ice Lord, and before I actually put in his face, I had his.
Pause. Are you making a kissy face in that picture?
Yes. Yeah, I got one of him doing a kissy face, a duck
You
face.
kind of look like Snowden in that picture.
I'll zoom in on it.
See the Snowden? Don't say that at work.
But so I merged all these layers down, but before I did that, I had his head in a separate layer. I had another thing like right here that kind of just casted a little bit better of a light, so it looked like his head was in the picture. And I also used some of these adjustments to make it look like it was in there. So
Trader, make me a new one where it'll work.
let's see. No, it's in design. Photoshopped. Let's see if I have any. Okay, this is perfect. So, I did that in Illustrator. Dang it. Okay, so we have this Overwatch stuff right here, and so you can see with the layers that like I can take this out, or I can move this specific character over here. This is one of the better things to do, is just like, because it's transparent and stuff, so I can arrange these however I feel like, but I can also
How do you move it forward, move it back? I mean,
so like say I want this character in front of this other one. It's all about where your layer is. We'll pull this out so you guys can see it better.
So the front is at the top or at the bottom?
At the top. So
Gotcha.
Okay, so you just drag that layer up to the top.
click and drag, or completely behind. You can tell that my this symbol, the Overwatch symbol, is not transparent because it goes over this guy.
Yeah. So there's one time like I wanted to make the background go away and it wouldn't go away. Couldn't figure it out. Like I tried to delete the background, it wouldn't let me.
Like you're trying to make this into a transparent.
Yeah.
So like.
How do you delete the background?
How do you make things transparent? Do you remember that?
No. So essentially.
How do you delete the background layer? Sorry, that's what I'm trying
Background
to
layer, this one.
Yeah, I just go.
So you click this lock icon and it takes it away, and then you can just
Okay, so
delete the back.
it was that stupid. So I just put a layer on top of it and like found a picture that had no background, imported it, and then yeah, okay.
Yeah, but see, so now you can tell that the Overwatch one is.
How would you add no background to the Overwatch layer now that it's already exists?
Okay, so
You're saying how would you cut it out more?
Yeah, how would you
So-
get rid of the
Could you
This-
use the object select tool?
you could, and how I would do it is I would you can click and drag and show stuff and disappear it, so you don't have to see it, but it's still there. So now I can see just the Overwatch symbol. I can go to the object selection tool and select. Let it think. Select that part. And then just delete.
and then that would remove the layer.
And that removes that white background, and now,
Beautiful. All
And
right.
then you could put them in the mountain scenery.
sure. You want me to add in a mountain scenery?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can pull in. How I often do it is I rather place or open. I like opening stuff better just because I can remember how to open it, and I always forget how to do that in. You want it in that Megaplex, Ogden, where you want it?
One in the mountain scene you had heard.
What mountain? This one?
The one that was on your desktop.
The one that you were using as an example for the raw.
When we were
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that. It's on my desktop.
Just like that. It's good.
Open it. And now I just, so a lot of the time you can't select your background layer, so you gotta unlock it. And then you can just grab it and you can drag it over to drag and hold.
Oh, okay.
And then you just put it behind.
How would you now resize that background so that it fit all of the background?
Okay, so now you're going to transform it. You can find that in Edit, or you can just press Control T if you're on Windows, or Command T if you're on Mac. And you gotta find the corner. And you just click, drag,
What if you
Oh,
just
that
wanted
looks cool.
click, drag.
What if you just wanted to fit the image or move the characters onto that environment instead of making the image smaller to fit?
So you want,
He's saying, couldn't you take all of the layers from here
And then
and copy them over to the other one?
like,
does
that?
that work? Yeah, and then just move them around in here.
That's
Oh,
cool.
okay.
Now, here's another question. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, can you make all of them bigger as one, or do you have to do that layer by layer? Can you like select 7 layers and transform them all as one?
Yes, you can. And with Photoshop, if you press Shift, it does it
Are there
freeform, and if you don't select Shift, it just does it. It scales it properly. But this is where you're going to see resolution differences.
Looks awful. Oh, it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
What did you do just then?
So it'll keep the resolution, or keep the like this shows the resolution, but it was saved in 300 DPI, and so now it's just going to be like probably 150 DPI instead of 300.
It's probably showing it like that because for performance, it's your scale. It's not.
Yes.
And then you hit enter. Is that what you're doing? Hitting
Yep.
enter.
Hitting
That's what I was
enter.
asking.
Okay.
You're hitting enter.
Yep.
And
And
now
then it
those are
goes
all
to
still
this.
different
Hitting
layers?
enter.
Yes.
Wow,
So
that's magic. Oh, cool.
And another cool thing you can do is like say this monkey. I want to do something fun with this monkey. You can give it glows, drop shadows, but you can also, after you press transform or command transform, you can warp it. So this is how people like make it look like, I don't know, like it's conforming to something.
Oh, okay.
So like it looks like it's wrapping around stuff or whatever.
So to maintain the best resolution, it would have been better to have shrunk the background image, the mountain scene, right?
That is correct.
Got you.
But if you are printing something and you know that the background image is the size that you already want to print in, I would keep where the background image is and try to bring over these characters instead. So like say I already know that I'm doing an 8.5 by 11 and this was shot for an 8.5 by 11. Instead of trying to fit it in here, because this is probably like a 4 by 6, I would move these guys over because this would keep the background still fairly nice. And these are just drawn characters. Any other questions?
Well, you obviously learned this stuff on your own, right?
So I learned it on my own in high school. I have done multiple classes in Photoshop. All of them are different. None of them are the same, and everyone has a different way of doing something. But a lot of it is self-taught or want to do myself, because most of the time it's, oh, change the hue of this, and I don't care.
So if you go looking for tutorials, where's the best place to go?
YouTube.
YouTube?
YouTube. I actually think Skillshare has some of the best, but that is a paid-for thing.
Right.
Free, YouTube. Usually not someone who has an Indian accent. And that's just because they teach like, this is a mouse. This is crop. This is like literally that's how a lot of them do it, is they just are like the most boringest video to watch ever. They're not doing anything cool. And also making your search kind of more focused into what you're looking for. So like I knew you were the one who was like focused on hair. Search specifically how to select hair better in Photoshop.
Gotcha.
And there will be 1,000 YouTube videos of how to do it and how everyone else likes to do it and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, there's some questions from Discord.
Oh, okay.
The questions are, can you teach about layer transfer modes, layer effects, smart objects, or adjustment layers? Do you know about any of those?
Yes, but they tend to be a little bit more advanced than 101.
I mean, we can always move that to a later discussion if you want to.
Yeah, because it might confuse people. But you can do things like opacity, like changing the opacity on something. So this guy just looks like a watermark or something like that. That's really easy to show. These are the layer effects that they're talking about. So like I put that on divide and now it looks like this is like brighter and that kind of stuff. But a lot of this someone can tell you what it does and you don't really think about it until you yourself are trying to figure out how to do something.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.